Hello, and welcome to chapters 17, 18, and 19. We will start out with chapter 17 in your textbook, and I will do a quick review of those for you, highlighting the things that I think are most important. It's really helpful, as always, if you read the chapter before listening to the lecture, and then you can go back and review it after I've pointed out the things that I find most important in this chapter. Emerging adulthood is the time of life that most of you are in right now. It is the ages of 18 to 25. During this period of time, it's the time in your life that you will have a high amount of energy, you will work hard, you will be able to do physical labor, and it is also the time of the safest reproduction. The body systems at this point in time function the best they will ever function in your life, which is one way of saying it's all uphill until about 25, and then it's a gradual decline after that. It is also a time when a lot of young people take their health for granted. 96% of 18 to 24-year-olds rate their health as good, very good, or excellent. And less than a third of you, of those 18 to 45, get their recommended flu shot. One of the problems with this is when you take your health for granted, and you do things like not get a recommended flu shot, you do put your health at risk. And that can be problematic, especially as you age. It can impact your capacity for recovery. Let me give you some terminology from your textbook that you need to understand and remember. Organ reserve is the capacity of organs to allow the body to cope with stress via extra unused functional ability. Homeostasis is the adjustment of all of the body's systems to keep physiological functions in a state of equilibrium. This diminishes as you age. As you age, one of the things that you will learn is that you have that you don't recover as fast. And we'll talk about one of those examples in just a minute. Allostasis is a dynamic body adjustment related to homeostasis that affects overall physiology over time. And the last term that I want you to remember is allostatic load, the stresses of basic body systems that burden overall function. Now let me go back and discuss an example of what we mean when we talk about homeostasis, allostasis, and allopathic load. One of the things that you do really well when you're 18 to 25 years old is that you regulate your body temperature. It can be hot outside, you can go for long runs, and you come back and you're just fine. And what you find out is that as you get older, your body is less able to adjust for heat. And you will see more people who are older suffering from heat stress. And this can, for an older person, happen rather suddenly. So a lot of older people, this is due to medications that they take. It can be due to overall poor health. And it can result in not only our ability to regulate temperature, it results in our ability to regulate how we sweat, which is one of the ways that we cool ourselves down. As people get older, their skin gets thinner, and they also dehydrate easily. So it's more important to make sure that you're drinking plenty of fluids. Here's the important part for people that are 18 to 25. The habits that people create, the habits that they use to take care of themselves, like drinking enough water, those are habits you develop when you're young. So it's really important as we get older to make sure that we are recognizing them, maintaining them. One of the big issues you want to consider then when you're young is how you balance this load and how you learn to do it, because again, the habits you develop in your youth will carry with you into your later life. Obviously, one of the prime examples is sleep, and people often get insufficient sleep. We tell people that they really need 8 hours of sleep every night. And when you're young, not usually a problem for you. Emerging adults sometimes sleep too little, and if they're tired the next day, or they won't be tired the next day, and that is homeostasis, because their body is making up for it. But years of poor sleep habit reduce years of life, which means that it's not a very good bargain. One of the things that happens as people get older is that they don't have the ability to stay up all night anymore. And people my age will refer to it as pulling all-nighters. When you're young and you're in school, you can stay up all night studying. You don't even worry about it. You go to class, you feel fine. Try doing that when you're 50 or 60. It will take you days to recover if you can even manage to do it. One of the things that happens if you don't have enough sleep is you have decreased energy, decreased alertness, poor health, and it decreases your life expectancy. Then you will also see at the same time, when you're not getting enough sleep, an increase in accidents, an increase in depression, an increase in weight, and an increase in appetite. You combine those two together, and they can have a significant negative effect in all health. Some other important health things and health habits you need to develop when you are young are exercise, friendships, community, and eating habits. You need either 150 minutes of moderate exercise. And by moderate exercise, we mean things like walking. Or you need 75 minutes of intense exercise. And on top of that, you need muscle strengthening at least twice a week. As you get older, one of the things that happens is you start losing muscle mass. You can work out as hard as you want to, and after about age 25, your muscle mass will slowly decrease naturally. So it's important for people as they age to make sure that they're walking and they're exercising to maintain that muscle strength and bone strength. Friendships are important for exercise because, believe it or not, if you form friendships, people that exercise with friends are more likely to continue to exercise. And you know that after college, your circle of friends usually decreases. So in college, you have a lot of friends. As you get older, you have fewer friends. Hopefully, they're closer friends. But it's important to make sure you have a group of friends that share your interest in exercise. So people that you can play tennis with, people you can take a walk with, or go running with. These are important to your health. Communities are important. Some communities are good places for exercise. Let me give you a personal example. When I lived in St. Louis, I lived right next door to a track and a community center. I walked out my back fence and up and onto the track. I got lots and lots of exercise. I then moved to Tennessee on a busy road that had no sidewalks. I realized that after 2 years of living there, that I really hadn't been for a walk other than around campus in 2 years because it wasn't easy. A community that makes it easy for you to walk or to exercise or to ride a bike means that you are going to be healthier. And then finally, eating habits. Eating habits can change during this early adulthood period. Each person has a homeostatic set point that causes you to eat when you're hungry and to not eat when you're not hungry. But if you do things like extreme overeating or extreme fasting, one of the things that you can find out is that it can reset that set point. And so you naturally want more food or you naturally want less food. It's really important to set your eating habits early in life because all of the fact of all the bad things you put into your body carry with you. And bad eating habits when you're young can significantly increase your risk for diabetes as you get older. One of the ways you can test whether you are at an ideal weight is to look at your body mass index, BMI. Once you're practicing nursing, this is something that we calculate on patients. So you will put in their height and their weight and you will get the BMI, and it will always be in the medical record. There are two calculations here for you. Obviously, I'm not going to test you on calculations. But you should get used to doing math because when you get to nursing, one of the first high-stakes tests you will take is your medical math test, and you need to know how to do these things. In the U.S., obviously, we usually calculate things for patients in pounds, but most of the apps you will use actually calculate BMI in kilograms and meters. The formulas are here for you if you want to calculate your own BMI, which I think is a really good idea. It, first of all, helps you learn how to do it. And the second thing it does is it basically tells you a little bit about your own health. I also pulled a table for you on what is considered overweight and underweight. And this is just one example of the BMI, and this one is for a person that their height is 5'9". If they're 124 pounds or less, they are underweight because their BMI is 18.5%. If they're 125 to 168 pounds, they are normal or healthy weight, which is 18.5 to 24.9. BMI. If they're over 169 pounds, 169 to 202, then they're 25 to 29.9%, which is overweight, and anything over 30% BMI is considered obese. The table on the right just shows you the BMI. So the BMI is the same for everyone. 18.5% is underweight, 18.5 to 24.9 is normal or healthy weight, 25.0 to 29.9 is overweight, and 30% is considered obese. Now, the one thing I will warn you about these calculations is if you have a person who is into bodybuilding, they're hugely muscular, then the BMIs, when you're calculating them, they just don't always come out right. So don't look at a number and not also look at the human being in front of you. Trust your eyes if you look at a person and you realize the person is actually very healthy. One of the other things then we talk about is another thing that is a sign of health, but also is something that we pay attention to in the country, and that is births in the United States. Now, why do we talk about this in the 18 to 25 early adult period? Well, that's because that is the period when people are their healthiest. It is the period when you're going to have the fewest complicated pregnancies and births. Lower birth rates among women in their teens and early 20s are fueling an overall decline in the birth rate. Now, in the U.S. right now, it seems to have steadied out a little bit in the last few years. But as you can see from this slide, from the 1950s until now, there has been a significant decline in almost all age groups, but not all. If you look at the 35 to 39 and the 40 to 44, then there have been, and the 30 to 34, they have been increasing. So for women over 30, they're having more babies than they did. For women under 30, they are having less, which is one way of saying people are choosing to delay pregnancy. And then we ask ourselves, why is this? Why are people delaying pregnancy? One of the things that we know is that we have much better birth control than we have ever had before. And we know that we now have long-acting forms of birth control that are highly effective. And while many people believe premarital sex is wrong, the majority of people in the 18 to 25 age group do not. They do not see any problem with premarital sex. And as we'll discuss in, I believe, chapter 19, one of the things you'll find out is while people in this age group do not have an issue with premarital sex, they do still have an issue with people who have extramarital sex. But depending on whether or not you're in Europe or the United States or Asia, it really depends. It impacts your view of marital sex. Obviously, one of the big concerns in this age group is also unwanted pregnancies. No one wants to get pregnant when they don't want to be. There are obviously solutions to this: abortion or birth of an unwanted child. The most effective way to avoid an unwanted pregnancy is long-acting contraceptives. Now, I want to add a little message in here about contraceptives in general, and that is that they work really well for people who have access to them, but not all people have equal access to contraceptives. For the most part, long-acting contraceptives obviously require a visit with your healthcare provider, and then they have to be implanted. And that can be costly for a person that doesn't have insurance or doesn't have the ability to procure it. So the cost of contraceptives and gynecological care is a significant issue for emerging. The other significant thing, obviously, following on issues like unwanted pregnancy, is the risk-taking of emerging adults. Emerging adulthood is the time when people are more likely to take risk. Risk can be good if it encourages going to college or succeeding at a job or starting a business, but it can also be dangerous if the risk can be destructive, such as unprotected sex with a new partner, or carrying a loaded gun, abusing drugs, or gambling, getting in bar fights. Anything like that can be problematic. But there's also other things that happen in the same age period. People tend to be more interested in extreme sports. They drive their cars faster. They do all manner of things that that are considered of greater risk. It is also a period of time when substance abuse is at its highest. Between 18 and 25, you will see from the chart that substance abuse peaks, and from that point on, the use of illicit drugs, tobacco products, and even binge drinking of alcohol all decrease and continue to decrease throughout your life. I want you to stop and take a little time to think about what are your risk behaviors? How are they impacting your life? And what would you like to change? When you think about the things in your life and considering it, it might make it a little bit easier to remember the commonalities of the group of 18 to 25.